Guys, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having
I'm really
us.
excited about this panel. We were even just talking backstage, and we came up with a new topic. So you got to wait till the end. But we're going to be talking a little bit about kids and athletics. So first of all, you guys obviously just such distinguished, accomplished athletes, making that transition to the business world, giving back to community. I wonder if you could each share an anecdote, something that happened in your sports careers that was unexpected, that prepared you for the business world and for giving back to community. Akin, why don't you kick it off?
Okay, first, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited. I've been to Emerge America several years, and knowing that this is the 10th anniversary, and to be part of that, I think is special.
Well said.
I think of a lot of my journey, and especially as a young athlete, Shane and I were just talking about when and what stage did we start playing and what all sports did we do. And for me, I did not play football until I got to high school. So I was a late bloomer. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and anyone that knows about Texas football, it's life. Like, that's all you do is play football from the time you can walk, especially as a boy. But I played soccer, played basketball, played baseball and track. And what really allowed me, and I felt that gave me an edge over everyone else, was because I did so many other sports that when I got to the pros, I went from playing Purdue University and being a linebacker or defensive end. When I got to the pros, they said, well, Akin, this is your position, this is your skill set, and this is all that you can do, and stay there. And I said, okay, I'll do it. All right, where do you want me, coach? I'll do it. But what? Life happens, right? And players get hurt, and coaches change, and bring in new schemes, new philosophy, and you have to learn how to pivot. But for the simple fact that I did so many different sports, and in a moment where I had to pivot, and they said, a new coach came in and said, Akin, you're going to play a new position, you're going to learn a new scheme, and you better be good at it, otherwise you're out of here.
Right, there's not a lot of time.
There's not a lot of time, and I was able to pivot. So it's just having that duality and having that flexibility to then pivot when you have to.
So that's your message, sort of, that you brought to the business world, be able to pivot when you need to.
When you need to.
Sometimes that's unexpected.
Right, exactly.
What about you?
The most shocking lesson that I learned from sports that translated into business was the end of my athletic career. You gotta understand, from the age I was literally 6 years old to when I retired when I was 34 years old 10 years ago, I was told where to be, how to dress, how to act, right? I had a scoreboard every single day of my career, right? I looked up and we knew if we won, if we lost, if I was great, if I was terrible, and if I didn't learn from that, when I went to the butcher told me I was terrible, right? So the feedback loops were constant, right? And as an athlete, you get used to that cadence and that scoreboard, and that's kind of what drives us, the adrenaline. Well, the day I walked away and started my business career, I learned the real world doesn't work like that. The feedback loops are much slower. Let's have a meeting about this idea. Let's send me an email. No, in the locker room, we're used to saying, hey, yo, pick it up, in much more crass language that HR would frown upon, right?
And don't send that email on a Friday afternoon.
And don't send that email on a Friday, thank you. So what I learned, though, as I started to get my business feet wet, were the two most important things in my sporting career, all right, the discipline, but more importantly, how to be a part of a winning team is what translated. And now I'm very passionate about talking to founders here at Emerge Americas, and especially young people who may have fantastic ideas, but it's still about people. It's still about, can you bring a group of people together for a common cause, row in the same direction to create something special that impacts the world. And so I was super lucky. We grow up in a locker room. We don't think we have much to say. But the lessons of the locker room, how to deal with a jerk, a ball hog, right? How to come back from a losing streak, right? How to deal with a coach that's giving you feedback.
You're describing, in a way, different corporate employees.
Exactly. They're all applicable, whether it's in the locker room or the boardroom.
And so did you find that you had to change your communication style or your expectations, even at how quickly you had that feedback loop? Did that change about you, or did you find ways to make it more immediate in business?
Yeah, you learn. You learn. Well, first of all, athletes are different. We're coachable. We're used to being told, hey, try this, do this. That's not working, right? And so one of our superpowers is that we can be taught anything. And so when we both retired, right, we're way behind the curve with other 34-year-olds and 30-year-olds who have gone to business school and have had professional career, right? But we tell our coaches, our executive, our bosses, hey, just show me what to do. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge advantage of living in athletics, that even though we don't have the experience, that's what we bring to a business setting.
A different kind of experience. And it kind of tracks with what you were saying, Akin. You go from being like a player or a cog in the machine to understanding that you can do more than that. You can help strategize, and that's really what a football team is, right? You all have to work together. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, how has that translated for you in business? Because even the word coachable, right, makes me think that you'd be a really good employee, but you guys are entrepreneurs. So also, like, how do you find the courage to go from player, not just player, mm-hmm. to strategizer? Because you have to be more than that to be successful in sports and business.
Mm-hmm. I think Shane said it eloquently. Just being an athlete, there's an advantage there where your mind's always has had to adapt to something. And the challenges of the rigorous days of getting up early and practicing and getting knocked down and missing shots and having someone yell at you constantly, there's always a push back. And so there's always a push in, and you always have to push back. And the entrepreneurial journey, as I saw it, was, okay, finding what it was that you really want to do and what that why is, and then regardless of what that push in and pushing back. And there are moments in the journey where you tend to have to understand that whether it's you or it's someone else, life will knock you down, right? You will get hit, and you'll try to make a decision, or you've had this vision and this is a strategy, but necessarily isn't going the way you see it. And that's the part you were talking about, because like the timeline that's in your mind and how you mapped it out isn't always there. And how do you pivot, or how do you slow down, or how do you let the market set the trend? That's always the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, and trying to pivot from being an athlete and going in and doing business.
Now, what we're saying is, like, look, we're athletes, all right? We're former jocks, all right? And so we don't want you to think like, oh, I never played a sport, I can never relate to what Akin and Shane are talking about. One of the coolest parts about being an athlete and telling our stories is that anyone can do is that we became masters at controlling what we can control. Mm-hmm. All right? And that's a lesson not just for athletes, that's for everybody. How do you react to bad news? Right? What time do you show up to work? Right? How do you present to people? You know, are you easy to work with? Right? Are you humble? Are you selfless? Or do you ask good questions? Do you listen well? Like, that has nothing to do with being athletes. We had to do that as athletes, but when I talk to different corporations, and especially young entrepreneurs, like, control what you can control. And you'll be amazed at how much success that brings.
That's a great message. Let me push back in a way, because you guys grew up with this incredible discipline, right? Practices, early mornings, as you said. You bring that to a business setting. TV operates in a similar way. You know, you gotta get to bed early, everything's moving on the fly, you have to throw out the script right before you go on. I once had a boss who said to me, and this has always stuck in my mind, not everyone can be a killer. You need to know who you're working with, and not everyone's gonna have the discipline that you guys have. That could be frustrating on one hand, or you could use people's different skills. How have you managed to navigate that in a business world when you don't have a team of professional athletes that spent their lives getting to that moment?
I have a belief that talent needs great people to be great. And I use this analogy. If you think of a chef of a restaurant, who has this idea and the recipe. Generally, while they might be great at cooking, they still need a manager, they still need a waitress, they still need, there's all these layers of individuals that you need to surround yourself with to really elevate you. And in that, for us, in that journey, I realized what my niche is, what I'm good at. I'm good at communicating, I'm good at motivating, I'm good at thinking outside the box in the sense of looking at a problem and breaking it down into parts and then addressing what my part is and then delegating. And if I can just do my part and have others who are strong at their part, the sky's the limit in that sense. And that's where I see it, where more people or more entrepreneurs, more business folks or more leaders have to learn to adapt to.
It's a balance, right? Because even when you're on a team of professional athletes, you need to know your part. You can't try to do everything. Shane, how have you navigated that? And I think delegation is such an important word here.
We live in a crazy Instagram world, right? Where we all think that the best way to show the world that I'm special is that you have to say, hey, look at me. I'm special. I'm special. I'm skilled. I'm talented, right? And that's what we're kind of fed through the social media world and the hunt for likes. And I always tell people, look, if you want to be special, if you want to be wanted, you want to create value for yourself, be part of a winning team. Win. Whatever team that is, whatever business you're a part of, whatever family you're a part of, whatever social circle you're a part of, win. Win. Help other people. That's how you create value. I'm not up here because I went to multiple All-Star games. I went to 0 All-Star games. I averaged 8 points a game for my career. All right? I'm not what you call an All-Star. All right? I used to have big games when I was younger in college. But the reason why I have a claim now is because I played 13 years, and every team that I played on played better when I was on the floor versus when I was on the bench. And so, the question I pose to people, when I play with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, the Miami Big Three, 2-time NBA champion, all right? Do you know how much time I actually touched the ball when I was on the floor with those guys? 1% of the time that I was on the floor, I spent actually touching physically the ball. And so the question is, what did I do in the 99% of the time when I didn't have the ball to make my team better? And so that's the challenge for all of us. It's easy to command a group when you have the laser pointer, when you're the head manager of a project. Can you impact a group? Can you elevate a group without having the ball in your hands? And that's how you create value for yourself.
I wanted to interrupt because you're being far too modest. So Shane, I love how you said I didn't play in any All-Star games. You're actually known as the no stats All-Stars. This is what Michael Lewis. It's funny how it kind of plays into all of our worlds here.
It's a great backhand.
He's a big figure in, before I was gonna ask you about this, but you painted exactly what that is, and it's not a backhanded compliment. I think you'd probably agree with me, right, Akin? Sometimes it's the stats that you don't see that show up in a traditional way that brings a team success and makes you the #1 team or whatever it is. And so I just wanna say what that means, okay? I had to look up this article, it was from 2009.
A long time ago.
But it was a unique impact, contributions subtle but highly effective, focusing on team success rather than individual accolades, defense, positioning, smart decision making. That could describe a really successful basketball player or pro athlete. It could also describe, and I know this world very well, a very successful CEO. So I think that's something to be proud of.
I'm very proud. I had a really good.
I had to make that point because you were being way too modest.
I had a great run.
And similar to you, right? When you were, yeah, go ahead.
Let me chime in on that. I think, and for all the successes that Shane has had on the court, I would say he's probably even greater off the court. Because one of the things that you realize, no matter what the idea or the scheme of the business is, it's still a people business. And because of that, people invest in people. You invest in people. The idea is there and the dream is there, but every investment I've ever made is because of the person who's on top, who's running it, and who I believe in and who I trust. And I think because of that, you've had that same success. So yes, you're right, Deepa.
But even your sports, it's not always about the quarterback or whatever position it is. Everyone works together, and sometimes it's like the unsung heroes, right? And I'm sure you see that in business as well. That it's
It is. I mean, if you think about the day-to-day grind, and the people that you tend to lean on the most are not the top talent. You know, in my business, I'm in insurance and risk management, and so for that, you know, in the employee benefits world, it's not, no one really goes to school for insurance. I mean, there is a risk management school now, but rarely do you just say from a kid that this is what I want to do. But I've understood that the way that we get to move the ball moving forward is because of the partnerships and the collaborations. And in those meetings, most of the time, and this is something me and my wife were talking about the other day, most of the time people tend to listen for conformity. And I truly believe like that's the wrong segment. It's listen for functionality. That's how you move the ball forward. Being an effective listener means you're listening to see what is my part, what I can do, and how do we move this project, how do we move this strategy collectively forward. And in any great business, that's how things get done.
So you may not have gone to school for insurance, however, you have lived a life steeped with data and statistics, which, as we say in my business and financial news, is the new gold or the new oil. It's the most important thing. Both of you have a lot of experience with that. How have you used that understanding of you need a lot of information, you need to be data dependent? How has that impacted your career after pro sports?
Well, I mean, personally now what I do, I mean, data drives decisions in everything that we do for our clients, for our team. We've understood that for us to make effective and concise, intentional strategies, it has to be data driven. Now, there are moments because in a lot of business, you still need people, right? Regardless of all the AI and the technology is out there, you still need people, but nothing really is effective until you have the right person, the right understanding, and the right strategy in place that data allows you to have a bigger view of it. So when I think of back when I played for the Cowboys and Bill Parcells, he's old school, very old school. Had me in I played in the 4-3 defense my entire life, went to Dallas, and all of a sudden I was in a 3-4 defense for any football geeks here. You know, it's a completely different style of football, at least playing defense. And one of the things that he had to navigate, a Hall of Fame coach who had only done things one way his entire life, even at his stage in life, he knew the importance of having the right information, because having a guy who had played in the 4-3 and trying to get him to play a 3-4 defense, and the concept of what a 3-4 meant was you have 4 linebackers and 3 defensive line, and you get to dictate what side of the field the offense can only run. That's the only advantage of a 3-4. That's the only advantage of 3-4. But he has this linebacker that has only been in a 4-3 defense, and all he does is run. How do you put him in a position for success? And Bill Parcells, a coach at the time, was in his 60s, understood the importance of figuring out the right personnel, the right talent to put in the scheme and to have a successful defense. And that year we were 13-3 and won the NFC East. And
that's amazing.
You know.
Another unexpected moment that taught you a business lesson. Shane, you were sort of looking at data analytics before it was cool to do so in sports.
I was probably the first Moneyball basketball player in the NBA. I got traded to the Houston Rockets in 2006. The Rockets were the first team to use data analytics as an organizational philosophy. And so I learned literally on the ground floor of how to look at data in terms of becoming the best basketball player and best basketball team. And so when I retired, I got hired by the Miami Heat here just on the road to build the data analytics department, and I was able to build a team. And look, analytics and data, when you say that word to most people who aren't in the tech space or the math space, they recoil in horror. Like, oh, data, like, scary, right? And so what I learned is I looked at data as a way to tell a story. And it's no different than telling stories in the boardrooms and the sales meetings of what we need to do. It's just another data point. And so I tell anybody who wants to get into data analytics, learn also behavioral psychology. Because as much as it is about the math, and the math is pure, the data doesn't lie, but unless you're able to communicate what the data means to decision makers and equip them with just another way to look at the problems we're trying to solve, you're wasting your time. And there's so much data in the world right now, right? There's so much data, and there's probably a lack of people who can translate that data and make it actionable for leadership to make sound decisions. And so that's still the gap, and that's great news, because that means there's a huge opportunity for all of us.
That is such a great point when we look at even the companies that are successful or not. And a story that I was just reporting on today is Google's place in the AI wars. They haven't been able to communicate their strategy, but they have all of the pieces, and ultimately that can set you behind. It's a great, great point that you need both of those in combination. I want to get to another side of your post-athletic careers too. Something that you guys have spent a lot of time on is giving back to the community. And I wonder how you think about that, how you carve out the time while you're building businesses, and what endeavors you've sort of focused on.
So for me, I'm a firm believer you give to get, but when it comes to my philanthropic endeavors, it's always been about just you give, because what you're doing, essentially, you're opening the door for others. I grew up very humble. Mama raising 4 kids by herself. I'm the oldest of 4. At an early age, I was already an entrepreneur. At 9 years old, I was hustling, selling candy, go to the grocery store, get some candy, go to school, flip it for $1 more or so. I also would go to the donut store in high school and in college and flip that, and just kind of started that way. But as far as my philanthropic endeavors, I started my 4th year in the league, started a 501c3, it was called Akin's Path, and I saw around me a bunch of guys who wanted to do good, but really didn't have the right partners, the right people around them. And so I pivoted from Akin's Path to Dream Builders. And over the last 15, 16 years, we've raised and given back over close to $5 million. It's all kids and youth initiatives, education, extracurricular activities, and nutrition. And now even in the business world, I still find ways to connect dream builders and community activists and community foundations to continue to do the same. My passion is all about kids, because I understand that, yes, the whole saying, they are the future, but they're also very influential. And to understand that, I saw a mom who, regardless of what we had, always found time. And that's the thing. Yeah. She found time to give back, whether it was herself, the small treasures that we had, or her talent. She found time to give back to the community. And I think in any organization, whether you're a starter or whether you're a CEO at a Fortune 500 company, a Fortune 550 company, this is something that you can always do no matter the level that you're in.
Well said.
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations, $15 million, $5 million, 15 years, that's awesome. Look, we grew up in a locker room, we've been part of a team, and like I said earlier, it's about being part of a great team. And growing up, I didn't have much, but we always had education and we had love. And as a result, I had amazing gratitude for every opportunity I was given. And I said, hey, just give me a chance, and I'm gonna take it to the end zone, all right? I'm gonna do it. And so I was always keenly aware, if I ever make it to the big show, it's my responsibility, and I think it's all of our responsibility, to bring people with you. Bring people with you as you climb the mountain, all right? A, it's more fun that way, and B, look, use your platform for good for other people. And so I started the Battier Take Charge Foundation to find kids in overlooked areas of our country. We have a big presence here in Miami and in Houston and Camden, New Jersey, and Detroit, and give them educational opportunities. We've given away over $3 million in scholarships and programming. And now we have legal professionals, we have our first doctoral candidate, and it's amazing that we were able to use our sport to multiply our effect and bring people with us who are changing the world. And so as we have future founders and entrepreneurs here who will have IPOs one day, don't forget that message, all right?
It's a great, and congrats to you too. That's incredible, $3 million. With a few minutes left, we were talking backstage a little bit. We all have young kids, different phases of their athletic or wish to be athletic academic careers, and we were talking about how do you like raise kids in this environment. And these guys, well, I played hockey in Canada. You just go out to the local rink, you know, with a stick and gloves, and that's it. And we were talking about how it feels different today. There's so much more pressure, and it feels like it's just like sports on steroids. You need the coaches, you need the private training, you need this and that. And Shane, I know you have a fantastic athlete already as a son. How do you think about his training and how he's growing up in a different way than you did?
Well, the best piece of advice I received was from a sports psychologist. And you know what the best thing to say to your child after a sporting event is?
No idea.
How do you feel?
The answer is nothing. You say nothing. You literally say nothing. And if they bring up the game or the practice, then you have carte blanche to say what you want. 70% of kids quit sports between 12 and 13 years old. You know why? Number one reason, the ride home from sports. Ooh. Number one reason kids quit sports, all right? Wow. So don't be that parent. And so as I raise my kid, who are both great athletes, I want to support them, and I'm there, and I hug them regardless of wins and losses, but I want them to experience being a great teammate and experience different sports, and I want them to fail, and I want them to get up, and I want them to learn to work hard, not to make excuses. Those are all the things that make you a successful, not only athlete, but a person and business person in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that lesson. Yeah. I'm going to remember that. And Akin, your kids are young, but when you think about it and whatever they want to do, whether that be sports or otherwise.
So I related a lot of my hiring practices to looking for people and talent who have played sports or had any extracurricular activities. Anything that you've had to do where you've had to actually put time into and had to be disciplined and had to really stretch yourself, to me makes for a great coworker, talent. And so with my kids, it's pretty much the same. It's the same model. I want them to fail. I want them to pick themselves up. Mom and daddy will be there, will hug you, but I am not living my dreams through my kids. I've seen it. To Shane, he said it. I've seen it. We've seen it through high school, college, and even the pros where, the parents are probably more amped up and more involved than the kids. And that's just not the way it is. And so for us, our kids will play sports, but it's going to be on their choice. They'll learn how to play the violin, the piano. It'll be their choice. They want to go horseback riding, whatever it is. But through those exercises and through the disciplines that they will get from that, it's going to make them a better friend, a better boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, a better coworker, and for that, that's what I want from them.
I'm thinking back to how you opened this panel, how you said you did so many different things, and you actually only started to play football in high school, which is incredible. So you were able to learn all of those traits through as many different things. Yeah. Who saw Jensen Huang's the NVIDIA CEO, recent talk? It's reminding me of what you guys are saying. He got up in front of a group of college students, engineers, I think it was. I can't remember where it was, but he said, I wish you pain and suffering, because what you need is resilience. Yeah. And you need to experience that to become better at whatever you're going to do. And it feels like you guys are sharing that message a little bit here.
Agreed.
Yeah, I also have something else. So there's a saying, and I forgot which coach said this to me, and he said this, he said, fall in love with the process, divorce yourself of the results. And when you learn to just dig in through the process and have that consistency, the results is a byproduct of your consistency. And in anything that I've done, and my wife's sitting right there, she can attest to it, once I made my mind up, I'm 100% in. Like, I'm all in. And it's just a cogwheel. You just keep going, and eventually you get to where your dreams are.
Any closing words for you?
Well, this is the message to the young people out there. Be curious, right? You have so much to to learn in the world. Talk to every person you can at this event and beyond, right? Be curious, be voracious about what don't I know, right? And as smart as you may think you are, you always have something to learn from somebody, right? And it's that collection of data points and those experience that separate the people that are truly great and build great things from those who don't, right? And so be curious, like Steve Jobs said, be foolish.
I like that. What a perfect note to end on. Gentlemen, thank you so much. You did an absolutely amazing job transitioning from athletics to business. I learned a ton. I hope you guys did too. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.